Okay, next revision guide for us is on index laws. I'm picking out the really basic index law questions here so that we can do this in two parts. Simple stuff here. Anything to the power 1 stays exactly as it is. That means, for example, 7 to the power 1 is just simply 7. Rule number 1. Rule number 2. Rule number 2, anything to the power 0, anything at all to the power 0 is equal to 1. For example, 9 to the power 0 equals 1. Negative 4 to the power 0 equals 1. Anything to the power 0 equals 1. There are then sort of three main rules that we use with basic indices. That's when we're multiplying. So for example, 2 to the power 7 times 2 to the power 5 is equal to. When we are multiplying, as long as the base is the same, 2, 2, then all we need to do is add those powers together. So 7 plus 5, we get 2 to the power 12. As long as the bases are the same. Otherwise you can't do that. When it comes to dividing, something like 5 to the power 6 divided by 5 to the power 2. Often they write division using fraction notation. Very often. But they may also write it like this. 7 to the power 11 divided by 7 to the power 8. Okay? What's important here is to understand that when you're dividing and the bases are the same, that you are subtracting the powers. So this one becomes 5 to the power 6 minus 2, which is 5 to the power 4. This one here, 7 to the 11 divided by 7 to the 8, that one becomes 7 to the power 11 minus 8. 11 minus 8 is 3, 7 to the power 3. The only thing they can do to make these more difficult, the only thing they can do, is use things like negative numbers. So they might do something like 8 to the power 7 divided by 8 to the power minus 3. That could make it more difficult. But the same rules apply. Because the bases are the same, 8 and 8, when we're dividing, we subtract the powers. So this would become 8 to the power 7 minus negative 3. And it's here that your negative numbers need to be really sharp. Because you need to know that if you subtract a negative number, it's the same as adding a positive number. So this becomes 8 to the power 11. So please don't let your knowledge of negative numbers get in the way of doing that. Or my inability to add 7 and 3, which should of course be 10. Thank you for noticing. Finally, powers of a power. If we're doing powers of a power, we're talking about something like this. 2 to the power 3 all to the power 5. And that's the third rule we're working with here. This tells us that we need to multiply the two powers. So these two powers here get multiplied. This becomes 2 to the power 3 times 5, which is 2 to the power 15. So those are our 5 simple basic rules to get going with when you're working with numbers. We will another day look at how you can apply all these rules to algebra when you're expanding brackets and things like that, but these are just the nice sorts of number questions that could come up. Just press pause on this and we'll come back and look at some questions we could practice if we want to.